Friends from the media fraternity, I am Angami, the chairman of the convener of the core committee. As you all know, there is an issue going on in Nagaland. That is, the Nagaland In-service Doctors Association have called for a mass casualty in protest against the government of Nagaland for not assenting to their demands. The very purpose of calling this press conference is to clear the stand of the Angami Students' Union vis-à-vis the ongoing issue. We believe that the Nagaland in-service doctors deserve equal privileges and opportunities with their counterparts from the rest of the states in India. The Prime Minister of India has given an announcement whereby it has requested the states in India to enhance the retirement age of doctors throughout India, because there happens to be a shortage of doctors, medical experts in India. However, when it comes to implementing that Prime Minister's announcement, there seems to be a roadblock, because the Naga Students Federation and the government of Nagaland had an MOU between them, whereby they have fixed the superannuation for the government servants in Nagaland to 60 and age of length of service at 35. This happened to be impeding cause for government of Nagaland to implement the Prime Minister's announcement. So, sensing that the Nida deserve to enjoy, like the rest of their counterparts in India, the Angami Students' Union took on the onus, the responsibility to present an issue at table and the matter in the Federal Assembly of the Naga Students Federation, whereby the Angami Students' Union had requested the Naga Students Federation to differentiate between the general superannuation and the superannuation issue of the Naga Students, Nagaland In-service Doctors Association. However, the Federal Assembly could not arrive at a conclusive decision and had concluded that the matter will be referred for wider consultation. However, the Naga Students Federation had just had two series of consultations with the Naga Students Union Federation leaders, then with the presidents of the NSF Federal units in Nagaland, and they have come up with a policy whereby the Angami Students Union has Angami Students Union were not in toto with the resolution that the Naga Students Federation had taken on the Presidential Council. And this very matter has kicked up a storm in the media, whereby we have come across that Federal Assembly, the Naga Students Federation federal units have clubbed up together to support the Naga Students Federation stand. So instead of giving a rejoinder or going for a media war, we have called up this press conference so that we can also air the stand of the Angami Students Union and also make clear to the public that this is the very purpose why the Angami Students Union is involved in this issue, and also want the public to know that the Angami Students Union have nothing in person against the Naga Students Federation, but because of certain mismanagement of this very issue, the Angami Students Union were compelled to take the stand that it is taken on at present. So this is the very purpose that we have called this press conference. My other friends from the Angami Students Union fraternity will also elaborate specifically on the issues. You can take the liberty to ask any question that you have to post, query that you have to ask from the Angami Students Union. Thank you.
Press conference, we the Angami Students Union reaffirm our stand that the general service of the aged superannuation is completely different from that of the medical doctors. If the Prime Minister, or for that matter the central government, gives provision for age superannuation or age enhancement in service like of that of the medical doctors, we will equally support the same. The medical age superannuation is unique because it is applied in almost all the states of the India. It is unique because through this we need to put up doctors population, where our state ratio is more than 1 doctors is to 4,000 plus. It is unique because we are short of experienced medical doctors that is required to start medical college as in administration as well as faculty. It is unique because medical doctors service is required 24/7, and it is unique for many reasons, which is known to most of us in times of pain and in sickness. When there is provision to better our medical environment, we should not wait for any imposition, but readily avail the opportunity. Declaration of the Angami Students Union stand in the media regarding the medical age superannuation. There has been an uproar of opinion differing among several pressure groups. One of such differences and wonder is the standoff between the Naga Students Federation and the Angami Students Union. However, we would like to clarify the position of Angami Students Union, that as for Angami Students Union, we believe in equality for our Naga brethren. After asserting the facts and figures relating to this Nida issue, we have appealed to the Naga Students Federation by tabling the agenda through its highest decision-making body, which is the Naga Students Federation Federal Assembly, which was held on 12 March at Kohima to discuss this issue. But the matter was referred back to the NSF Executive Council for wider consultation with all the stakeholders. And as far as we are informed, no extensive consultative meeting was held except the one which was the senior consultative meeting, which was held on 25th of March at Hotel Jaffa, and the presidential meeting, which was held on 11th of April. But the matter this resolution was taken during the NSF Federal meeting, presidential meeting on 11th of April, which was supposed to be one of the consultative meeting, and the issue is supposed to be referred back to the NSF Federal Assembly for decision making, which we the Angami Students Union had tabled the agenda, the issue. During the presidential meeting, 3 agendas were discussed: the NSSB issue, the Nida issue, and the rationalization of teachers in school education department for deliberation and discussion. But the NSF went to publish only the issue of medical doctors in print media, which indicates the biased stand of the Federation. Union, we refrain from signing the emergency presidential council meeting. It is not competent policy making decision of any agenda placed in Federal Assembly, which in simple terms means we object the resolution. Very surprisingly, the Naga Students Federation on 12 April in itself was controversial because it affirmed to maintain status quo, but at the same time mentioned that it is subject to review of the existing superannuation policy of the state. As such, the malicious claim by some of the NSF Federal Federating Unit is misleading and provoking. Considering all these factors, the Angami Students Union, after thorough deliberation and consultation with the four ranges, that is the Western Angami Students Union, Northern Angami Students Union, Southern Angami Students Union, and Chakrama Students Union, and the Angami Students Union senior leaders, have decided to non-cooperate with the incumbent NSF team, as they have failed to uphold the fate of Angami Students Union over its way of functioning.
The union is totally unsatisfied on how the state government has handled the issue. Thus far, the state government should have taken a bold and timely decision when the issue was raised by the Nida, but prolonging the issue with various excuses is totally unwelcoming. The assurance of the state government to Nida on the 17th April of 2021 to resolve the issue within a year has already expired, and till now the state government, rather than resolving the issue, they are deploying police personnel to duty on this issue, setting up various control rooms to monitor the mass casual leave and threatening the Nida not to go on mass casual leave with various impositions. If this is to be the response of the government, why has the Chief Secretary on behalf of the state government given assurance to resolve the issue within 1 year? In fact, the government is provoking the issue, and if this leads to untoward situation while failing to be attended with medical needs, we are sorry to say, but the state government and those parties hijacking the genuine doctors' demand will be liable for any casualties.
We are not privy to whatever the or confidential matters that the government have. There might be reasons which are confidential, and we, the Angami Students Union, is not a privy to such matters. However, on the part of the Angami Students Union, we feel that the very issue of the general superannuation, which the Naga Students Federation and the government of Nagaland had agreed upon earlier, impedes or creating hiccups for the government of India, Nagaland, to grant the demand of the Nagaland In-service Doctors Association. So there might be many factors why government is not granting the demand of the Nida. However, if the present superannuation issue happens to be one, then we, the Angami Students Union, initiative is to smoothen the part from the for the government to grant the demand of the Nida by doing away with the superannuation issue for the doctors, because the general superannuation issue and the demand for extending another few years for the Nida should be is distinctly different.
Oppose, and then, as stated earlier, we refrain from signing the resolution, which itself is a symbolic protest from our side.
When we say about equality, do you think other employees are lesser than the doctors, or because if some other government employees organizations start demanding the same thing, will you stand for them as well? Or what if you stand for them? Because equality should be, I think, there on this
Today
issue.
it's Nida, tomorrow the
Yeah.
engineers will also come in.
Yeah, a very relevant question pertaining to the other services. There, yes, they also have the equal rights for the extension. However, as said earlier by one of our speakers, there should be a total separation between the pursuance of Nida issue, because one factor is the shortage of medical doctors, where as per the World Health Organization, it should be 1:1,000. However, in our state context, there is an acute shortage of 1 doctor is to 4,000 population. Also, with a focus in coming up another 2 medical colleges, there is a need for medical doctors to look into. And therefore, the Angami Students Union has also, I think you have seen in press media also, in one of the press release, it has clearly mentioned and implored upon the state government to create more vacant posts for all those resultant vacant posts which should be recruited to NPSC, so that those educated unemployed medical doctors should be given. And also to your question, if other services like the Prime Minister announcement for the medical doctors, if other services Prime Minister grant or announce for such things, then as said earlier in the earlier speakers, Angami Students Union also support such things, because there is a need, and that need is what we are addressing into. I think it is generally for all the medical doctors, not particularly the clinical or the administration.
I don't know how far it's true, but then like we did hear something like the government had given an option to our Nida for the extension of 2 years, like doing the clinical, but not in the
You see, pertaining to this matter, it was announced by the Honorable Prime Minister of India in the year 2016, perhaps on the 26th of May. Now, when that announcement was made for medical doctors as superannuation, the Prime Minister announced that the retirement age of the doctors will be enhanced to 65. Now, when that announcement was made, it was merely an announcement. But after that announcement, the announcement of the Prime Minister have went to the discussion of the Cabinet, the Government of India. The Cabinet have taken a decision on 2017, March 22nd. And the decision of the Cabinet have went on to amend the fundamental rules of 1922, Rule 56 Clause BB. Through that amendment, the retirement age of the medical doctors was enhanced. However, as mentioned by some of our media friends, it is not an imposition. The state is given the opportunity or the privilege to decide whether the state needs that superannuation or not. Now here, the Angami Students Union, what we are trying to reiterate is that when the government of India is giving a privilege to the states of India to choose whether we would want to enhance this medical doctors' retirement age, we feel that we have to, because there are shortage of medical doctors in our state. So, in that context, in the cabinet memo, there is also a provision that it lies on the government to decide whether to agree or not. Now, there it also says that till 62, they can be in the post of administrative, but 63, 64, and 65, they have to only practice medicine. They can only serve as doctors, not as administrative officers, except for those in the paramilitary and assault rifles. There's a distinction in that rule as well.
Whereas in the government sector, when the vacancies are there, why is not ASU trying to force for recruitment of doctors instead of extending the year of service?
No, in our representation to Chief Secretary, we have clearly mentioned, the Angami Students Union implore upon the state government to recruit the subsidiary resultant vacant posts through NPSC to absorb the educated unemployed medical doctors on oxygen requirement, and further create more requisite posts to subdue the shortage of medical doctors in the state. That is what we have also clearly stated in our representation to Chief Secretary on the 14th of April.
So if the vacancies are fulfilled, then the requirement also will be fulfilled. So why do you further want that doctors to have that extra years?
I think because superannuation was
Superannuation, now the demand is because the shortage is there. Once the required vacancy is fulfilled, then there, I think, more vacancies will have to be created, or maybe those who are in service will have to retire early because the youngsters will keep on coming.
So, can you ask, is the NPSC ready to conduct the exam?
So
That
that's
is
why
also
I'm
one thing.
asking why ASU is not forcing the government to.
We have
fulfill
already
that.
asserted our stand to
Yes.
Chief Secretary. So, it depends on the government to decide.
There is no response in regard
No,
to
no.
that.
Now, we asked you also have the data of how many medical doctors are recruited annually, because you had mentioned that you are facing, you have come out based on data that you found. Do you have data of medical doctors being recruited annually in a state?
Now, as of now, the present we have 511 posts, out of which there are only 329 posts which are filled. So we are short in terms of like 180 plus.
The Nagaland Public Service Commission, they have a way of functioning of recruiting these officers through the conduct of NPSC exam. Now, annually, usually what happens is that in every exam, they do not recruit hundreds of doctors. Normally, it is between 20 to 30 doctors that are being recruited through an annual exam of the Nagaland Public Service Commission. Now, if 30 doctors approximately are recruited every year, then to meet the need of our doctors, it will require decades. And NPSC cannot, that is in the prerogative of the NPSC. However, usually NPSC does not recruit all the required number of posts through one exam, because in the next 30 to 35 years, when they retire, they will retire in one bulk. So in order to mitigate the shortage of doctors at one point of time, they recruit phase-wise. So to meet the need of the doctors, it will require years. So here, to the question that have been raised, the doctors being recruited annually or through an exam is usually between 20 to 30 doctors.
I would suggest our press friends to ask more between the standoff between NSF and ASU. Because doctors issue Nida.
In regard to this medical college and medical doctor aspirants in Nagaland, the Angami Students Union, we are wholeheartedly concerned towards the timely commencement of medical colleges in Nagaland. As we have already mentioned through our earlier press statement, the fate of medical college also lies in the span of its faculty and administration. This is the core reason for why the Angami Students Union is supporting medical age superannuation. Therefore, one should not shed crocodile tears by opposing medical doctors' age superannuation, but appealing for an early startup of medical colleges. The Angami Students Union have already appealed to the government to recruit medical doctors as per the requirement without further delay, so that medical doctor aspirants can also come forward to give their service and be employed. We sincerely inform those medical doctor aspirants that this age superannuation is not only for the in-service doctor of today, but for everyone who will one day become medical doctors in the government sector. Thank you.
As of now, the Angami Students Union, we have been vigilant. We are deputing our volunteers in district hospitals, the primary, the community, and the sub-centers in our confined jurisdiction. The 2 days collected data is at our disposal, and here we would like to mention that during these 2 days mass casual leave called by the medical doctors, hundreds and hundreds of patients have been denied medical attention, and there is also a psychological fear of the patient as well as the family members. And thus, this unwelcoming situation created out of the failure of the state government to address the Nida demands. And so, the Angami Students Union will not remain mere spectators when its people are denied of their medical rights, and as such, the delay in meeting the demands will only invite a retaliation from the Angami Students Union, and we are prepared and with various intensive plan action. And if you want the data, we have the data with us. You can take it after the press conference. Thank you.
From the state government.
We have read the statement of the state government that even though the in-service doctors are on mass casual leave, they have stated that they have a sizable number of contractual doctors to cater the need of the patients. Here, we would like to question the government that when we have the in-service doctors, still then we are short of medical doctors. Now when they are on mass casual leave, now the government saying that they have enough contractual doctors, that question we would like to pose to the government as to whether the facts and figures are correct. And here we would like to rather appeal the state government not to provoke the issue, because as mentioned by some of the speakers, the patients, they are in psychological fear. Many of the patients are not being attended by the doctors who have been attending them before. So even though they are contractual doctors looking after the patients, each patient is being looked after by a specified doctor, and the change in doctor also causes problems to the patients. So here, trying to replace the contractual doctors with that of the regular doctors of the patients, it is going to create situation. And one day, if any patient becomes more ill of this issue, whether the government will be responsible, that the government have to respond, and the government would have to give its statement accordingly, because the lives of many of our citizens are at stake now. So we would rather request the state government to be mindful in giving such statement, and rather be more mindful as to how to resolve this issue.
Doctors from across the state, although ASU's jurisdiction is just within 3 districts, are you also taking a stock of the situation beyond these districts? Because it concerns mass casualty of doctors in the whole of Nagaland. So.
We are only confined to our district.
Yeah,
I mean,
Angami jurisdiction.
We clearly understand the distinct difference between the general superannuation, which is for the overall government servants of Nagaland, and enhancing the superannuation for the in-service doctors in the context of PM's announcement. So, in the process of the standoff between the government and the NIDA are compelled to go for agitation, whereby Nagaland citizens are victimized because of not availing the service of the doctors. So in due process, if the government is not seriously and earnestly, sincerely taking up the issue of the NIDA, then the NIDA will continue with this protest, and in due course, if any casualty happens, then the Angami Students Union will not remain silent spectator. That is our stand. And what will be the next course of action, or how ASU will react in such a situation, we are keeping that one confidential. However, we can be assured that Angami Students Union is ready with its planned course of action. So, I want the press fraternity to understand the position of the Angami Students Union is that we want to facilitate a smooth passage for the government to take up the case of the NIDA sincerely, and if at all there happens to be some roadblocks because of the superannuation, we want to clear that one, because the Nida issue happens to be a separate one, and that any organization, or for that matter NSF, they also should understand the difference between the general superannuation and the superannuation for the Nida. So that is our stand, and I hope the press are satisfied with the explanation with our.
For which you mentioned that you were not a signatory and that's a symbolic
Protest,
sign,
yes.
a symbolic protest. So, I did not want to say this, but according to inside sources, ASU did not oppose to the resolution during the meeting, but only after the resolution was passed and adopted by the House. Yeah. How far is that true? If it correctly, because certain sources are not reliable at all times.
Since it is related to constitutional, any matter, since Federal Assembly is the highest decision-making body, the Angami Students Union has tabled the agenda in the Assembly, Federal Assembly, which ought to be good or bad resolved in the Assembly. But NSF has taken the issue into another platform, in a sense, instead of coming back after, as per the decision taken, as per the endorsement taken from the Federal Assembly, that the issue of superannuation age of medical doctors needs wider consultation with all the stakeholders, and therefore NSF has had a senior consultative meeting, and the next is the Presidential Council. So maybe that two series of consultation or meeting does not suffice in wider consultation with all the stakeholders. And also, of course, we have clarified on the press statement of the NSF, but it has to come back to the Federal Assembly by any means to resolve the matter or the issue, where NSF has taken the decision and has come out in the Presidential Council, which for us and all of us, we know that it is not a policy-making decision or platform.
Miss, the Angami Students Union tabled the agenda in the NSF Federal Assembly, which is the highest level decision-making body. In that very meeting, the conclusion was that it should be subjected to wider consultation. So, if the executive were to decide upon that in the executive meeting or in the consultative meeting, that is not the competent authority. So here, taking a decision or concluding an issue which was presented in the Federal Assembly in a meeting of a presidential council meeting, then there happens to be a violation of the NSF constitution. That I think that should clear the air. And as the president has stated, he didn't append his signature on the resolution. Rather, he should have walked out. That was what we thought that it would have been a better reaction and response. However, though they did not walk out, the Angami Students Union delegation did walk out, but they refused to append their signature. I think that will do.